Hi, welcome to class. So today we are going to be learning how to cut a top. So the first thing you need to do is fold your paper or your fabric into two that way. And then the next thing is to get your zip allowance. So we are going to be adding a zipper to this top. So I'm marking 1 inch for the zipper allowance. You can also do 1.5 if you want. So after marking it, I'll just join the points like this to give me my zipper allowance, and then I'll just indicate it there as zipper allowance. After getting the zip allowance, the next thing you need to do is fold it in out of the way so it doesn't confuse us. Okay, so I folded it in now. And then the next thing we need to do is get our starting point line. It's always nice to have a starting point line because that is where you are going to be starting all your measurements from. All your vertical measurements will start from there. So after getting the starting point line, I'm going to be getting all my vertical measurements. So from starting point line to nipple line, just mark it, waistline, and then the hemline or the end of the top, you mark it that way. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Mark the point all the way to the bottom of the top. That's where my hip stops. And then I'll join the points like this to give me a straight line. So I'll just put names on the lines: start line, nipple line, waistline, and hemline. The next thing we need to do is get the neck measurement. So standard for a basic top is 3 by 3. You can get other neck measurements and variations, but for a basic top, 3 by 3 is fine. So I'm just going to join the points that I marked like this to give me a round neck. We are going to be marking the back neck later. So the next thing we need to do now is get our shoulder measurement divided by 2, mark the point and come down by 1 inch. Then get a slant line for your shoulder line because our shoulders are not completely straight. After which we are going to get our armhole depth. Okay, so to get your armhole depth, just divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5. I've done that and I've gotten my point. I'm just going to mark my point now, and then I will draw a line. This is our chest line. So where your armpit stops, that is where your chest is. If you check your armpit, where your armpit is, that's where your chest begins. So that's our chest line. So the next thing I need to do is join the shoulder line to the chest line using a straight line. Okay, so to do that, I just need to measure, make sure that both down and up are equal. Okay, I just want to cross check that it is equal, and then I'll join the points like that. After joining the point, the next thing we need to do is divide that line by 2. Divide it by 2 and mark it. I'm just dividing my tape into 2. Mark it, and then from that point where you marked, go in by 0.75 and mark. Then use your curve to join it. But before we draw our line, we need to get our bust measurement divided by 4 and place it on the chest line. So for instance, if your bust is 40, divide it by 4, you get 10 and mark it there. Then place your curve and join those points. So I'll join from the shoulder all the way to the 0.75 mark and to my bust, where my bust line ended. That's where your curve will stop. So now we have our armhole for the front. We are going to get the armhole for the back, which is not usually as deep as the front. The front is always deeper. So at that point, I'll just go in again by 0.5 this time around for the back armhole, and I'll join it exactly the way I joined the front point, all the way from the shoulder to the 0.5 mark and to the bust measurement, which we have placed on the chest line. So I'm just marking front and back, so we get it. So for the back neck, what we need to do is 1 inch by 3 inches. So that's me marking it, which is a standard 2 for a basic top. But this is not the only neckline you can make. From here you can adapt, you can have wider necks, deeper necks and all that. So I've marked the neck. So now we need to get our dart. To get your dart, just measure your nipple to nipple and divide it by 2 and place it like this. So I have 4. My nipple to nipple divided by 2 is 4. I'm marking the 4, and then I'll just join those points that I marked to give me my dart leg. So the dart helps to make your garment more fitted, so it's not too loose. So from the hemline, I'm coming up by 2 inches, and from the nipple line, I'm going down by 1 inch, and on the waistline, I'm just going to open up the dart half inch on both sides, and I will join it that way. So that is me joining the half inch to that point and the other half inch on this side to that point, and then I'll join it this way to give me my body dart. This is a double pointed dart, or a body dart, because you can see 2 points. Okay, so the next thing, we need to get our waist measurement. We have gotten the bust before. Now the waist divided by 4. When you divide your waist by 4, place it and mark the point. Then add 1 inch again for the dart allowance. Remember, we have taken 1 inch at that place, so you add it back. Whenever you take something off for that, you add it back. So now for the hemline, your hip measurement, divide it by 4 and place it there. So I've marked the points. I'll just use my ruler to join it like this. So after joining it, we are almost done, but we need to get our bust dart. This gives more fitting. So just divide that place by 2. That's your chest line to waistline, divided by 2, and draw a straight line to your nipple point. Draw it like that to your nipple point. Then open up the dart half inch on both sides. Then from your nipple point, go away by 1 inch and join the point like this. So this is called a bust dart. Now that we have taken 1 inch there, we need to add it back. Remember, I told you when you take anything for that, you add it back. So I'm adding 1 inch at the bottom. So by the time we sew in the dart, it does not affect our measurement. So after adding that 1 inch, I'll just join it back to the midpoint like this. Remember, this is going to affect only the front. We don't need that part at the back, because the bust dart is only for the front. So now I want to extend the back neckline. I just want to extend it there. And then we are just going to cut off. So everything I'm going to be cutting now, I'm going to be starting with the back. So I'm cutting off the back first, and then we'll cut the front afterwards. So see me cutting the back armhole. Remember, that's the back armhole. So I'm just cutting it out. See. So if you are cutting on your fabric, remember you need to add allowance by the sides, but this is just a pattern paper, so you don't need to add allowance. When you're transferring this pattern to your fabric, you add allowance. I have a video that I'm going to give you showing you how to add allowances to your pattern, so don't worry about it. So I'm cutting off that part. Remember, this is the front. Okay, so now I'm taking off the zipper allowance for the front. That's the front part. Okay, I'm just cutting off the zipper allowance, but the back is going to have a zipper allowance. So now that we have done that, we'll just set them aside for now, okay, and work on the back. Okay, so now you will see that the front is shorter than the back because of there is no zipper allowance for the front, only the back has it. So I'm just transferring markings from the front to the back to help me work on the back more easily. So I'm marking the hemline, the waistline, and the chest line. So I'll just keep the front aside and join those points to help me do my work more quickly and help my measurements to be equal. So I'm just joining and transferring the chest line, the waistline, okay, and the hemline or the hip line to the back to help me walk. And then I'm going to indicate that folded part as my zipper allowance. I hope it's simple so far. It's not difficult at all. So now remember that for the front we added an allowance, and we did all that because of the bust dart. We added 1 inch downwards to make up for the bust dart, and we connected it to that point, but we don't need it for the back. So I'm just going to take off all that part. Okay, all that part is not necessary. We are just going to stop at that straight line, which was our hemline, initial hemline. So the back does not need all that, only the front needs it. So after taking off that part, the next thing is to put that. So remember that that will start from the center back. So I'm folding that zip allowance back inside. You know that the zip is usually at the middle of our back on our spinal cord. So I'll place my 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement, divided by 2. I'll place it like that, okay, to give me my dart leg. So that's me marking the dart leg. After which I would come up from the hemline by 2 inches and come down from the chest line by 1 inch. And then on the waistline, I'll just open up the dart by 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. It's not a standard. You can do 0.75 if you want. If you are a plus size, then join it this way. Okay, join it to the points that you have marked. And there you have your back dart. Okay, so after doing that, the next thing we need to do is get those measurements off. So now we are cutting the front neck. Remember, that's the mark for our front neck. So I take it off, and then I take off the armhole too for the front armhole. We are almost there, guys. Very simple. If you follow it step by step, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner, you are going to get it. Okay, so that's on equal length there. By the time you join the bust dart, it becomes equal on the sides. So one small thing that we need to do is to get our back tightening. So some people, when they fix their zip, it becomes there's a puff at the back. It doesn't lay flat. So you just need to tighten your back and you won't have that issue. So I went in by 1/2 inch at the waistline, and I'm just going to join from that 1/2 inch all the way to the edge of the down part, and from that 1/2 inch to I'll draw all the way to the edge of the neckline. So that's 50% tightening. If I had gone in by 1 inch, that's 100%. So I'm just cutting it from that edge all the way inside to the 1/2 inch at the waistline, and then I'll go back out to the hemline, and then I've tightened my back, and that is all. So you have your top drafted out. So we are just going to transfer to fabric.